Welcome to an introduction to Rent, a musical by Jonathan Larson. The inspiration for Rent came from a man named Billy Aronson, who had the idea to remake the classic opera La Bohème. Aronson brought the idea to Jonathan Larson, who eventually made it into the rock opera that we know as Rent. Larson incorporated his own life experiences into the show. He wrote about starving artists, a lifestyle that resonated with him, and with many HIV-positive friends in his life, he made the AIDS crisis a central component of the plot. He also lived in New York City, which is the setting for Rent. Jonathan Larson tragically died the night before the show premiered off-Broadway, but his legacy lived on with the show. It was a huge success, premiering on Broadway later that year and remaining until 2008. Rent is set in Manhattan's East Village in the late 1980s. The story centers on an eclectic cast of characters struggling to pay rent. The musical is famous for its rock style and well-known numbers like Seasons of Love and La Vie Bohème. The cultural impact that Rent has had is difficult to quantify, but it has certainly made its mark. One of Larson's intentions with the musical was to bring the MTV generation to the theaters, and that's what Rent did. The show also sold $20 rush tickets to make it more accessible, which has since become common practice with many shows. The style of the music, as well as the way it handled heavy topics, had a lasting influence on the future of musical theater. Rent was groundbreaking at the time it was written, in part for the way it boldly approaches conversations about class divides, gender and sexuality, homelessness, and the AIDS crisis. It is now much more mainstream and has become an icon of musical theater. A question that we often ask ourselves in the world of dramaturgy is, why this play now? Why should we perform Rent in 2023? This story still has the potential to resonate with modern audiences. Many characters in the show are members of the LGBTQ+ community, a topic that continues to spark all sorts of conversations. The story of people enduring amidst a health crisis can also resonate strongly with all of us as we near 3 years since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. Not to mention that HIV/AIDS is not entirely an old issue. Atlanta itself is still a hotspot within the U.S., with some areas having 6 to 8 times the national average rates. Homelessness is also an ongoing issue in Atlanta and across the nation. Engaging this material encourages us to be more conscious of race, class, and identity. Stories like Rent have the potential to bridge the gap between the past and the present, inviting audiences to engage with the issues that persist in our communities. Here's some information about KSU's production of Rent. We hope to see you there.